Welcome back, folks, and we are moving on. And we are in the middle of our unit on naming compounds. And last time we talked about how to name ionic compounds, and we said with a let's go back and write some notes here, right? We've got naming, and we have over here ions, and we talked about ions, and we have cations, and we have to name them a certain way, right? We just say usually the metal plus the word cation. And then over here we have anions. And how do we name them? We take a stem and we put the suffix "ide" on there. Now we could have cations that have multiple cation states. In that case, we have to write down the metal and then the charge in parentheses, right? So the charge in parentheses as a Roman numeral and the word cation, right? And these are usually my D block and P block, D block, P block metals, and F block metals. Over here, we have some that have only single charges, and those are my group ones, group two, aluminum, zinc, cadmium, and silver, right? And these guys never have their charge written after them. Good, so that's ions. And then we came over here and they said, hey, we can talk about compounds. And we have ionic compounds. And how do we name ionic compounds? Well, we're going to put the metal name first, followed by my nonmetal and nonmetal stem, and then we'll use the suffix "ide," right? So sodium chloride. And then when we're making our formula for this, what has to happen? Well, the net charge has to equal 0. And how do we do that? We find a least common multiple between my cation and my anion, figure out how many cations are needed to get to the least common multiple, see how many anions are needed to get to the least common multiple, and then we get something like this, right? Where the metal comes first and the nonmetal comes second. Perfect. So that's a quick overview. And now we want to get into how do we name molecules? All right, so let us look at our question, or consider. We have a molecule composed of 3 oxygen atoms and 2 nitrogen atoms. So what are we going to do? We're going to write the formula and the name for the molecule. Okay, this is a molecule, and what does that imply? If it's a molecule, we're talking about a nonmetal plus a nonmetal. Okay, so how do we name this and write the formula? Well, with ionic, what did we do? We put the metal first and then followed by the nonmetal and put "ide." Well, we immediately have a problem. And what is that? Well, which one of these is the metal? Neither is a metal. Yoink, that doesn't work. So we have to have a whole new set of rules. So let's look at my molecules, and remember this is a nonmetal plus a nonmetal, and remember hydrogen is a nonmetal. Okay, here we go. First thing we have to do is decide what element comes first. So the first element, we have to decide some way to get that. And here's the rule. The first element is the element from or in the lower group number. Lower group number. Okay, so we're looking at oxygen and what was our other? Oxygen and nitrogen. Oxygen and nitrogen. Oxygen is in group what? It is in group 16 and nitrogen is in group 15. Which one is the lower group? 15 is the lower group, meaning I'm going to put nitrogen first. So I put down nitrogen followed by oxygen. Good. How many atoms of nitrogen do I have? I have 2 atoms of nitrogen, so that goes there. And how many atoms of oxygen? I have 3, and I put 3 there. So this is my formula. The formula is a piece of cake. Formula N2O3. Good. Now, further rules on my first element. The first element is from the lower group. Good. First element, never gets a suffix. Okay. Second, prefixes. Okay, it does get prefixes, but not for one atom. If you only have one atom, then there's no prefix. So what are these prefixes? Okay, if I have one atom, here's my atom, and here are my prefixes. One, okay, there is no. Two, di. Three, tri. Four, tetra. Five, penta. We need more space. Six, hexa. Seven, hepta. Eight, octa. Nine, nona. And 10, deca. So these are the prefixes I would use on which? My first element. Okay, so let's take a look. No suffix, and we use a prefix. I will write down nitrogen, or how many nitrogens do I have here? I have 2 nitrogens, so I'm going to write down what? 2 is di. So here we go. Oops, here we go. Oops. Di-nitrogen. Oops, I can't spell. Yoink. Uh-oh. Dinitrogen. How's that? Dinitrogen. Good. Now, what do I do with my second? Let's go back here. We need some more rules. I have the first element. Now we have to come down here and say what happens with my second element. So there's my first element. Zoink. Second element we're gonna put over here so we have lots of space. The second element in my molecular compound, what are its rules? Number 1, always put suffix "ide" on its stem. Okay, so we're going to put "ide" on the stem. And number 2, always put a prefix for the number of atoms of that element. And so 1 is going to be mono, 2 is di, and they all follow the same after that. So di, tri, tetra, penta, same as over here with the exception of here we use mono for 1, here no prefix for 1. All right, that's not so bad. Good. So how many atoms do I have? I have 3. So that means it's going to be a tri. My stem is ox, and my suffix is ide. So my name here is dinitrogen trioxide. Good. Now, how did I know to use this? Because I had a non-metal and a non-metal. What if I had a metal and a non-metal? Well, then I'd follow all the rules for my ionic, right? I wouldn't use prefixes. It would be some other name, right? Good. Here you go. A molecule composed of 5 nitrogen atoms and 3 phosphoruses. Bring me back when you're ready. All right, let's look at our periodic table. Here's my nitrogen. Here's my phosphorus. Oh, oops. Oh, no. What are we going to do? What's our problem here? Well, nitrogen and phosphorus are in what? They're in the same group. So what do we do if they're in the same group? More notes. Aha, you notice that I left a space here. If in the same group, then what are we going to do? Element in higher period. Okay, remember periods increase going down. Like, so this is period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we look at my periodic table, period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to take the element in the higher period if they're in the same group. Okay, so which of these is which is the higher period? Well, it looks to me like phosphorus is in period 3 and nitrogen is in period 2. Which is the higher period? Well, 3 is the higher period. So that means I'm going to put my phosphorus first, followed by my nitrogen second. I have 3 atoms of phosphorus. I have 5 atoms of nitrogen. Good. What do I do with my first element? I'm going to give it a prefix if it's anything but 1. So it's tri-phos for, well, do I put a prefix on it? No. Phosphorus. And then what? I have 5, and so that is a penta nitride, right? Triphosphorus pentanitride. Good. All right, going forward, you all do this one. I have one molecule composed of 5 bromine atoms and one phosphorus atom. Okay, phosphorus, we know where phosphorus is. Phosphorus is right here. I'm gonna have to change my color. And bromine is right here. So which is in the lower group? Phosphorus is in the lower group, meaning phosphorus will go first. So I'm going to put a P here and a Br here. How many phosphoruses do I have? I have 1. How many bromines do I have? I have 5. Since I have 1, I don't write down the 1. So what do we write here? Phosphorus pentabromide. There we go. Phosphorus pentabromide. Next. Let's try one more. 3, I have a molecule composed of 3 chlorine atoms and 1 nitrogen atom. You guys do this and give me the answer. All right. Chlorine is here, nitrogen is here, which is in the lower period, lower group. Nitrogen, so I'm going to put nitrogen first. Oops, that's not very good. Nitrogen, chlorine. How many nitrogens do I have? I have 1, so I don't write a subscript. I have 3 chlorines. Good. I have 1 for my first element. That means no prefix, so it's just nitrogen. How many? Tri. Chlor is my stem, and ide is my suffix. Remember, no suffix on the first element, no mono on the first element. Good. Nitrogen trichloride. Excellent. Here we go. Consider a molecule composed of 2 oxygen and 1 sulfur atom. All right, you guys can do this one. Let's find my sulfur. Here's my sulfur, and here's my oxygen, right? Sulfur and oxygen, they are in what? The same group. That means which one goes first? The one from the higher period. The sulfur is in period 3. So I'm going to put sulfur here, oxygen here, 1 sulfur, 2 oxygens. How do I name this? Sulfur dioxide. Cool. Next. So you guys try this one. All right, here we go. Nitrogen and oxygen. Oh, let's clean this up a little bit. This is zoink. Need a new color. There we go. Nitrogen is here. Oxygen is here. What's my decision? Well, first I look at group. Which one is from the lower group? Nitrogen's the lower group. So I'm going to put nitrogen first, followed by my oxygen. And I put a 2 for my nitrogen, nothing for my oxygen. And then what? It's going to be dinitrogen. Now here's a little change. Okay. Let's add a little tiny note here with my prefixes on my second element. If stem begins with O, such as oxygen, then don't use your mono, just use mon. Same thing with your A's. Don't use the O's. Drop the O, and also drop the A in things like penta and hepta. So it would not be monoxide. It would be simply monoxide. And it wouldn't be hepta, so that's wrong. It wouldn't be heptaoxide. It would simply be heptoxide. Okay? Good. So we get rid of that alliteration for things like oxygen. Here we go. Where are we? Okay, so how do we name this? Not monooxygen, but monoxide. There we go. Dinitrogen monoxide. You guys give this one a shot. Well, same kind of thing. We have nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen is from the lower group, so my N comes first, my O comes second. How many nitrogens do I have? 2. How many oxygens do I have? I have 5. So this is going to be what? Dinitrogen pent. But notice I don't say pentaoxide. No, I get rid of that A and it's just pentoxide. Dinitrogen pentoxide. Cool. Hey, that's it. That's how hard it is to name molecules. We are champions. See you next time.